Hey everybody, it's Jerry with the Gael Scoil, and today we're talking Gaelic football. Old. Gaelic football is really old. So, the first recorded instance of Gaelic football is in 1308, and that's from a legal journal where there was a case of a fan stabbing a player. And while that's a bit extreme, that just happens to be the first time that on the books they actually mention Gaelic football, and it wasn't quite the same as it is now. That came into existence around 1607 in the county Meath, where the first recorded game where you could actually catch the ball and kick the ball. I'm not sure what it looked like before then, but that's where that started. And it was around the 1800s where the game that you see today is actually played. So I went down the Jersey Shore to meet up with our friends with the Jersey Shore GAA. They allowed us to film them playing the game for a little while, and then they ran a couple of drills for us. So I'm going to show you that and do some talking over it with some of the rules of the game and how it's played, and give you an example of what it is. So sit back, relax, like the video, share it, and tell all your friends, and welcome to the Gael Scoil. All right, once again, thank you to Jersey Shore GAA. That's who this video is of right now. One Saturday morning I went down there. They played a game of football for us and a game of hurling. So here obviously we're watching the football game. I'm not going to commentary the whole game, but I will point out a couple of things as they come up. In between I'll give you a couple of other things about the game. So first of all, I'm going to point out the goal here. So what you see is kind of your typical soccer goal, but then there are uprights, just like in hurling. And the point of the game, obviously, is for one team to score more points than the other team. The way you score points: if you put the ball above the crossbar in between the uprights, that is 1 point. If you put the ball in the net, that is 3 points. You can kick the ball up over the net or punch it up over the net in between the goalposts. You can also, to get a goal, kick the ball into the net, obviously. You cannot necessarily punch the ball in the net from your hand. If the ball is in the air and two players are going for it, offensive, defensive, you can punch the ball in then, sort of like in volleyball. So some other basics about the game. There are 15 players on the field for each team, and that usually amounts to one goalkeeper, 6 defensive players, fullbacks and halfbacks, 2 midfield players, and 6 offensive players, forwards and half forwards. Now, obviously, what we're watching here from our friends down at the Jersey Shore GAA don't have that. Obviously, when you're playing a pickup game, sometimes you don't have the full amount, so you do the best of what you can. During a game, a team can substitute a maximum of 6 players. So unlike soccer where you can do 3, although I believe it's 4 now maybe with the COVID, but it might be back to 3. Anyway, nonetheless, 6 players for Gaelic football. And once a player has been substituted, they are not allowed to re-enter the game. The only exception is if a player gets hurt, they may temporarily be allowed to come on. But I'm sure that gets much deeper than what we need to right here. So what you see now is our friends over at the Jersey Shore GAA running a couple of drills for us. And obviously that's the only way that you're going to get better is by practicing. And they'll practice catching the ball and picking the ball up from the ground, which you cannot just do. You have to nip the ball up with your foot, so it has to touch your toe and come up into your hands before you can actually retrieve it from the ground. And then you'll also see them practicing some passing. hand passes, where you just kind of punch the ball, almost like in volleyball, where you do an underhand serve, and you punch the ball to each other. And then there's a lot of intricate running in and out to try and get open and positioning. The field. So the field length is 145 meters in length by 85 meters wide. Each goal is 2.5 meters high and 6.5 meters wide. And the game is broken down into two 35-minute halves with a 10-minute halftime break. So fouls. Now, obviously, if you watch some of this, you'll see that there's a lot of bumping into each other. If you watch any of the senior league Gaelic football, you'll see that there's a lot of physicality. So there's definitely fouls. So what are some of the fouls? There's two types of fouls. There's technical fouls, and some of the examples of that is if you throw the ball instead of hand passing it. If you hand pass the ball overhand instead of underhand. If you lift the ball off the ground with your knees. If you lie on the ball. If you touch the ball on the ground with a hand, obviously, like I said before, you have to kick it up with your foot. If you bounce the ball twice in a row, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Then there's aggressive fouls. So aggressive fouls are kind of what you would think they are. They're a bit more serious than just simply falling and laying on the ball or picking the ball off the ground. One thing is that you can't attempt to block a kick from an opposing player with your foot. So you have to come in with your hands and try to block a kick that way. You can't come in with your foot. If you pull down or tackle an opposing player, if you push or kick or trip or strike an opponent with your hands, arms, legs, or foot. So basically, you're just playing extra rough. If you spit on a player, engage in reckless behavior, these types of things. Technical foul typically results in a possession change with no type of card. An aggressive foul results in a free kick or a penalty kick, depending where it is. And then the referee can decide how bad the foul was and can give out a yellow card or a black card or a red card. So let's get into what a match looks like. The game begins with the referee doing a throw-in between two players facing back-to-back. A team can move the ball down the field by hand passing, kicking the ball, and solo runs. So solo runs is something that's really important, and I definitely want to spend a moment on because it's something that's a bit different to Gaelic football. So a solo run is when a player runs with the football and alternates toe tapping the ball and bouncing the ball. So toe tapping is where you'll run with the ball, drop it, and then kick it back up to yourself off of your foot. And those are the two ways that you can solo the ball. And as I said before, you are not allowed to bounce the ball twice, like as if you were dribbling a basketball. You can only do that once, and then you have to either pass it or solo it up to yourself. So a player is permitted to shoulder check on the side of an opponent. So some of those fouls I talked about earlier, it's not a foul if you do it on the side and bump into each other. You can't block with your feet. If an aggressive foul is performed inside the penalty area, a penalty kick is awarded. And if the match ends in a tie, the game will go into extra time if the tournament allows it. If not, the match will result in a tie. And if you've ever watched an All-Ireland, which is the Super Bowl for Gaelic football, if that ends in a tie, they actually go and replay the game the next week. So imagine going and playing the Super Bowl again the next week. Imagine how big a deal that is. So those are the basics of Gaelic football. I think we'll throw on some music here and let you watch out the rest of this game and maybe see some of the things that I talked about. And I hope you enjoyed it. This is just really the basics. Go do a Google search on it. I think you'll find there are some really great games out there. If you watch an entire game, I believe that you'll really enjoy it. It's a fast and fun sport. I'm surprised it hasn't picked up here in the States a bit more, as it is really aggressive and a lot of fun to watch. So thanks, and I hope you enjoy that.